This woman's fiancé is a scumbag. With only 1 week left before their wedding, he's already fallen for someone else getting cozy with another woman. Such a scumbag is unforgivable. At this moment, Celia sat on the terrace, silently watching the distant couple chatting and laughing. The woman over there was a rare heavenly saint, while the man was Celia's fiancé who was about to marry her, watching her fiancé thoughtfully take off his coat and drape it over the shivering saint's shoulders. Celia was grinding her teeth in anger. That bastard was getting married in just 1 week. She really wanted to rush down and pull out all his hair. Although she thought this way, she had to endure it due to the gazes of people around her. Despite feeling disgusted, Celia had to force a smile and make excuses for her man. My fiancé has always been very sociable. Before she could finish speaking, she started coughing violently. A deep male voice sounded beside her. Are you planning to stay on the terrace all day? Celia turned around and saw it was the Grand Duke of the Korea Empire. If you catch a worse cold from staying on the terrace, your meddlesome fiancé will definitely challenge the high priest to a duel. After saying this, he turned to leave, instructing his attendant, take the saint back to the temple. I don't want any disturbance here. Watching Grand Duke Belk leave, Celia couldn't help but sigh. Although he's so cold to the saint now, he'll fall in love with the saint someday, because he's the male lead of this novel, and that's his destiny. This novel tells the story of the female protagonist, Lena, a dimensional traveler who falls into another world and is deeply loved by both the male lead and the second male lead. As expected, Celia is the big villain who will die in the most tragic way. In the original story, Celia loved doing evil. Her hobby was luxury, her specialty was waste, and she didn't get along well with her family. But she was just an ordinary college student who accidentally transmigrated into Celia's body, and from then on decided to desperately survive and fight alone to change Celia's reputation. Once, to heal the second male lead Kaelus's arm, she collected medicinal herbs from a dangerous place, and from then on fell in love with Kaelus. They went shopping together. They watched the stars together. Until one day, Kaelus formally took out a ring to propose to her, and Celia happily accepted. After all, since the female lead ended up with the male lead in the novel, wouldn't it be better for her to choose the second male lead? But when the wedding was about to take place, Kaelus still followed the plot and madly fell in love with the female lead. Looking at her fiancé being intimate with the female lead, Celia felt indescribably sad. Who knew that a few days later, instead of her going to trouble the female lead, the female lead came to her first. What was going on? At this moment, the female lead enthusiastically introduced herself. You're Kaelus's fiancé, right? I'm Lena. From another world, everyone calls me the Saint. Looking at Celia's luxurious room, Lena was very happy. I heard you're trying on your wedding dress today? I'm quite curious about wedding dresses from another world. Celia looked at the chattering Lena. She had just called her fiancé by his first name directly, while she herself had only been allowed to call him by his first name after 11 months. With Lena's calling, Celia snapped back to attention. Lena continued talking to herself. I want to observe how you change into your wedding dress. Celia was shocked. What decent person would want to watch someone undress and call it observing? Just as Celia didn't know how to decline. The designer Begonia nearby couldn't stand it anymore. There's nothing interesting about trying on a wedding dress. And when putting on a wedding dress, only servants, relatives, or close friends can be present. Saint, you don't seem to belong to any of these 3 categories. The serious-looking Begonia seemed to have frightened Lena. She ran away crying while saying, I'm sorry. Celia thought to herself that this was bad. In the novel, Begonia was also one of the villains, and was fired by Kaelus for bullying Lena. Looking at Lena running away, she felt the plot was starting to overlap with the original story. But now that Kaelus was her fiancé, things should be a bit different, right? Who knew that in the evening, looking at her fiancé sitting across from her? Celia questioned, why did you fire Begonia? Begonia was just telling her not to treat me like entertainment, and what the saint said was indeed very rude. Kaelus was very unconvinced, but Lena, Hearing this form of address, Celia's heart suddenly sank. Are you now calling the saint by her first name in front of me, your fiancé? Kaelus realized he had let something slip and quickly explained. Because I was just appointed as the saint's protector, please understand. Even this was the same as in the original story. In the original story, Kaelus was appointed as Lena's protector, and this relationship made the two quickly become familiar with each other. But now he's already engaged to me. Seeing the silent Celia, Kaelus stood up urgently. Did I make you angry by not telling you about the protector thing in advance? Celia thought of the scene in the original story where she was killed by Kaelus, and to avoid that ending, she reluctantly answered, no, then forced a smile. I can understand, Kaelus. Great. Kaelus felt much more at ease. Moving closer to Celia, I was worried you'd be angry. Thank you for understanding me, my dear fiancé. Hearing this, Celia thought to herself, fiancé my ass! You can't trust a scumbag's promises. He just said it and immediately forgot, abandoning his sick fiancé to accompany his mistress. Crouching on the ice surface, Celia was so angry her teeth itched. Damn scumbag! No wonder the original Celia became a villainess. Anyone would want to break their legs. "Are you all right? Your complexion looks terrible." It turned out to be the Knight Commander of the Belk family. "You have a cold. Today isn't suitable for inspecting the ice river." To prevent magical beasts from appearing, the Belk family commissioned Celia to regularly check the ice river barrier. Because Celia possessed the divine power unique to the Shutalin, to secure her position and survive, Celia needed to faithfully fulfill her duties as a Shutalin. The Grand Duke approached from afar. "What are you doing here?" "Miss Celia, you really treat my words as background noise." Celia was a bit confused. "What did he say? Why did you come out when you have a cold?" "Oh, that's what he meant." Celia breathed a sigh of relief. "My cold isn't serious, and this is what I should do as a Shutalin?" the Grand Duke asked disdainfully. "Are you trying to catch a severe cold to attract your fiancé's attention?" Celia immediately retorted, "I didn't come here for that. And my fiancé wouldn't go around finding fault like you do no matter how sick I get." The Grand Duke ignored her words. "Are you doing this because of the saint? Because your fiancé has fallen for someone else and loves the saint?" Celia was thunderstruck. How can he just blurt out such harsh truths? Seeing Celia's embarrassed and angry face, the Grand Duke changed the subject. "Have you finished checking the lake's barrier?" The commander quickly responded. "Thanks to Miss Celia." The inspection was completed quickly. Without her, it would have taken us at least half a day. Celia secretly glanced at the Grand Duke. What's so great about him, talking nonsense in front of me? Well, he is pretty impressive. As expected of the male lead, he's quite handsome. Too bad he has looks but no manners. The Grand Duke glanced at Celia. Let's go back. As soon as he finished speaking, Celia was enveloped by something soft and warm. It turned out the Grand Duke had draped his cloak over Celia's shoulders. "You're an important Shutalin. Don't let your cold get worse over something trivial." Celia tightly gripped the collar of the cloak. "What's he doing? He was just finding fault moments ago. His attitude toward me seems better than I imagined. But since he's the male lead, I should leave quickly after the wedding ceremony." As a Shutalin, the wedding ceremony could only be held in a fixed location. She didn't originally want to hold the wedding here, because this was where the male and female leads got married. That is to say, Lena was actually also a Shutalin. Being both a saint and a Shutalin, this setting is too exaggerated. At this moment, someone called to her from behind, "Miss Celia." It was her guard knight Bibi, who had returned from the magical beast subjugation war. Not having seen Bibi for a long time, Celia happily grabbed Bibi's hand. "Tell me about the magical beast subjugation." While Celia and Bibi were chatting happily, a pair of eyes was watching them from afar. Lena turned and asked, "Why does Kalis' fiancé go to the ice river every day?" The attendant answered, "Because she's a Shutalin. Only a Shutalin's power can purify the barrier." Because of her dedication to duty, many people praise her highly. Looking at the distant Celia, a flash of jealousy crossed Lena's eyes. "Shutalin, that's a nice ability. I really want to have it too." Celia lay in bed, and the maid beside her reminded her, "Your birthday is coming up soon." If not for the maid, Celia would have forgotten this herself. Then the maid mentioned Lena again. Recently, the saint has been very interested in the constellation Metal Stele. Thinking of how, in the original story, Lena awakened as a Shutalin after touching the metal stele, Celia couldn't help but feel a bit panicked. "Forget it. I'll leave here quickly after getting married." It was a new day, and Celia hugged silver laurel branches with purification abilities, preparing to call Bibi to inspect the ice river together. As soon as she stepped out, she bumped into Grand Duke Belk. Celia hurriedly bowed in greeting, but all the silver laurel branches fell from her arms. Celia quickly crouched down to pick them up, and unexpectedly Grand Duke Belk also crouched down. "Are you going to the ice river again today? Are you dissatisfied with your current accommodation and doing this to improve your treatment?" Celia thought of the servants who had been troubled by her before and quickly explained, "Even for the sake of the servants who work hard to serve me, I must work even harder." The Grand Duke looked at Celia, trying hard to explain, and chuckled. "You're really hard to figure out. I'm reluctant to let you go back." For some reason, hearing these words from him made Celia feel incredibly at ease. Just as she was sitting on the sofa recalling what had just happened, the room door was suddenly pushed open by a maid. "Ugh, this is terrible!" The saint touched the metal stele and fainted, and the metal stele emitted light. "A new Shutalin has been born. How is this possible? Lena's awakening as a Shutalin should have been at the ending. How could it happen so much earlier?" The Grand Duke also walked in. "How is the saint now?" The priest quickly answered, "She's no longer in life-threatening danger. Marquis Haneto has been taking care of the saint." Celia looked at Kalis beside her, only to see him tightly holding the saint's hand, his eyes reluctant to leave Lena's face, not even noticing when she walked up to him. The priest smiled obsequiously to the Grand Duke. "A new Shutalin has appeared. The saint will definitely repay your kindness in caring for her." The Grand Duke didn't respond. After leaving the room, the Grand Duke asked Celia, "Did you also fall seriously ill like this before awakening?" Celia quickly answered, No, my divine power isn't as strong as the saint's. The metal stele's influence is proportional to the strength of holy power." The Grand Duke's gaze immediately became much sharper. "So you're saying the saint knew her divine power was strong, yet still touched the stele and caused such a commotion?" Lena's attendant quickly explained. "The saint didn't know she would be a Shutalin." The Grand Duke snorted coldly. "The saint's divine power is unstable. You should have warned her that touching the steel would be dangerous, right? You did tell her, didn't you? Lena's attendant didn't dare respond. Looks like I guessed right. Then tell me, why did the saint insist on touching the steel? The attendant was frightened and mumbled, because the saint was very envious of Miss Celia. Lena envied me? Celia found it incredible. She touched the steel because she envied me? In the original story, Lena accidentally touched the steel and discovered the secret that she was actually a Shutalin. But now she actively went to touch the metal steel. Could she have known she was a Shutalin? At this moment, Assistant Official Linon hurriedly reported, "The saint has awakened!" Lena slowly opened her eyes on the bed, and the first thing she saw was Kalis sitting by the bed, extremely worried. "I feel terrible." Kalis tightly held Lena's hand, completely ignoring Celia standing in the room. "Don't worry, Lena, I'll always stay by your side." The Grand Duke glanced at Celia, whose face looked very unwell, and said to the priest nearby, "The Belk territory is very busy in winter. We don't have the energy to shelter this kind of troublemaker." Then he instructed the assistant official, "Tell the Grand Temple that as soon as the saint can get out of bed, send her away immediately." Kalis could no longer contain himself. "Your Grace, this is too much." The saint didn't want to get sick and faint. "How can you blame someone arbitrarily?" "Marquis Haneto," the Grand Duke interrupted Kalis. "You keep calling her a patient, so let me ask you. Your fiancé is also sick. Aren't you confused about who you should be taking care of? Those who don't know might think your fiancé is the saint." Facing the shameless scumbag man and woman, helpless Celia looked at this gentleman who stepped forward to speak for her, and suddenly felt like crying for no reason. "I want to go home. I just wanted to live well. Why did this happen? Miss Celia, come with me." The Grand Duke gently extended his hand in invitation. Scumbag Kalis immediately stood up, trying to prevent Celia from leaving. At this moment, Lena on the bed suddenly started coughing violently at an inappropriate time. Kalis's attention was immediately drawn back, and he hurriedly cared for Lena. "This damn scumbag." Seeing this scene, the Grand Duke directly reached out and held Celia's hand. "Let's go." "Yes, Your Grace." No longer paying attention to Kalis and Lena behind her, Celia left the room holding the Grand Duke's hand. A day had passed in the blink of an eye, and Celia worked while thinking about yesterday's events. Since they parted, Kalis never came looking for her again. "Miss Celia!" Seeing the Grand Duke approaching with a worried expression, Celia remembered the help he had given before and prepared to thank him properly. Before Celia could speak, the Grand Duke spoke first, after experiencing that yesterday. "Can you still inspect the lake today? Why don't you rest well at the villa today?" "Your Grace, I will inspect as carefully as usual. You don't need to worry. This is my duty as a Shutalin." Looking at Celia's forced smile, the Grand Duke was somewhat flustered. "That's not what I meant." Suddenly, Kalis's figure appeared at the door, looking at the two people chatting intensely. He said sarcastically, "So you're here. I haven't seen my fiancée, and I've been looking for a long time, but I didn't expect she'd be in such a remote place with His Grace." The Grand Duke silently protected Celia behind him. "Marquis Kalis, I don't think I gave you permission to enter here." Kalis sneered. "Do you want compensation? I can give you however much money you want." The Grand Duke approached Kalis with an oppressive aura. "Punishment isn't decided by me. We must follow the Belk family tradition." Cutting off one hand. "Do you dare?" Kalis mocked. "So His Grace wants one of my hands. Are you trying to start a territorial war?" Looking at the two arguing endlessly, talking about war in the dead of winter. "Do you want everyone to freeze to death together?" Seeing them arguing more and more fiercely, Celia reached out and tugged at the Grand Duke's hem. "Your Grace, my fiancé is indeed too rude, but starting a war in winter would be too cruel for the knights inspecting the ice river. Please be magnanimous and give him another chance. He will also swear not to do such rude things again." Facing the sincere Celia, the Grand Duke looked at Kalis. "You really found yourself a good fiancé." Saying this, he pushed past Kalis forcefully and left. Kalis quickly came to Celia. "Celia, let's talk." But Celia ignored Kalis and walked out of the room without a word. Kalis hurriedly chased after her. "Wait, Celia. How could you casually pull at His Grace's hem just now? Your behavior was too frivolous." Hearing Kalis's complaint, Celia couldn't help but turn back. "Huh? My behavior was frivolous?" Kalis knew he had said the wrong thing and quickly explained. "Calm down, Celia. Lena is a patient, and besides, she has no one else to rely on except me. Can't you understand me?" Saying this, he grabbed Celia's wrist. "How can you be with other men and not even look at me?" Celia mocked. "Aren't you also staying with the saint?" Kalis immediately retorted. "Lena is sick, how can it be the same?" You're right, it's indeed not the same." Celia tried to break free from Kalis's grip. "At least I didn't breach etiquette by calling the Grand Duke by his first name in front of my fiancé." "Let go!" Kalis still wanted to explain, but Celia was too lazy to listen, and forcefully pulled her hand back. Because she used too much force, she accidentally hit a tree and scraped her hand. Celia leaned against the tree, breathing heavily, and said in an icy tone, I told you to let go. Can't you understand human speech? Kalis looked at Celia's bloody hand. Why did you suddenly pull your hand back? You hit the tree. But Celia didn't engage with his words and said to herself, Kalis, if I were you, I would have demanded to break off the engagement long ago and then propose to the saint. Kalis looked incredulous. What are you saying? The person I love is you. Celia looked at him darkly and said disdainfully, who would believe a man who tenderly holds another woman's hand in front of his lover? As she spoke, tears began flowing uncontrollably. You don't know anything. Every time I see you staying by the saint's side, do you know how scared I am? Seeing Celia's sad state, Kalis suddenly couldn't understand his own thoughts. I'm sorry, Celia. I didn't mean to make you cry. Then he hugged Celia. I was wrong. After the wedding, we'll return to our territory immediately. After this treatment is over, I'll never see the saint again. I swear, after marriage, I'll only be a husband belonging to you alone. Looking into Kalis's sincere eyes, this is the last time. I'll believe him one last time. Celia let out a long sigh. Then on the wedding day, you'd better not be late. Kalis guaranteed. Don't worry, Celia. I absolutely won't be late. Back in the room, Lena's roar echoed throughout the entire room. What do you mean by saying that? Kalis repeated. Today is the last time we'll call each other by our first names. Lena mocked. It's because of your fiancé, isn't it? So from now on, we'll have to address each other formally? Kalis confirmed. After the wedding, we probably won't see each other again. Hearing this, Lena appeared extremely dejected. But you're a friend I cherish very much. I don't want to lose you. If only we could have met earlier. While saying this, Lena suddenly noticed the bracelet on Kalis's hand. Kalis lifted his hand to show her. This is a gift from Celia. Lena's expression was ambiguous. Kalis, I want to be friends with Celia. Kalis corrected. Lena, if you're not in an intimate relationship, calling someone by their first name is very rude. Hearing Kalis's rebuke, Lena suddenly broke down. I'm already annoyed enough about Grand Duke Belk making me go to the temple. And now I have to lose you as a friend. Do you know how sad I am? Didn't you say you'd protect me forever? As she spoke, she began crying pitifully. Seeing Lena's tears, Kalis's heart suddenly softened again. That's right, Lena is from another world after all. She must be very scared. This time really is the last time. I'll keep her company one last time. On the eve of the wedding, both of them disappeared without a trace. You're saying they lost contact after going out? The person behind answered, Yes, Your Grace. They probably got lost due to the sudden blizzard. The Grand Duke was extremely angry. Is Marquis Haneto planning to kill Shutalin Celia? That guy's brain is really waterlogged. For a Shutalin's wedding, if any rule regarding the time, place, or any regulation is violated, the Shutalin's divine power will explode and Celia could really die. That guy Kalis couldn't not know how dangerous it is to hold a wedding with a Shutalin, but he still went out before the wedding. I should have knocked him unconscious and locked him up from the beginning. At this moment, the Grand Duke saw Celia outside with the search team. Is she worried about her fiancé and wants to go find him with them? She seems to have become a different person in a year. Was it all because of love? How ridiculous. Then the Grand Duke instructed his subordinate, Tell Celia I forbid her from stepping 1 foot outside the city gates. Standing by the floor-to-ceiling window, Celia stared at the blizzard outside. The Grand Duke actually won't let me leave the city. But no matter what, I must find Kalis before the wedding. As the door opened, Bibi walked in with snow all over his head. The closer to the ice river, the bigger the blizzard, so today's search has been suspended. The search will resume immediately when the weather clears. Also, Grand Duke Belk asked me to tell you, even if I have to tie him up, I'll throw that damn guy into the chapel. Even if there's still no news on the wedding day, you should wait at the wedding in advance. No matter what happens, the wedding will proceed as scheduled. For some reason, hearing these words, Celia felt much more at ease. Looking at the wind and snow outside, the Grand Duke went out to look for him personally. Kalis will definitely come back. I believe in my fiancé. As a result, on the wedding day, in a small cabin, Lena desperately clutched Kalis's clothes. Kalis, it's too dangerous to go out now. Besides, are you going to leave me here alone? What's the big deal about postponing the wedding for a day or two? Even if you go out now, you won't make it on time. Kalis looked very anxious. Lena, a Shutalin's wedding is different. The consequences are very serious. The wedding is about to begin. Then Kalis forcefully pulled away Lena's hands clutching his hem. Lena wanted to say something more, but Kalis suddenly coughed violently, blood dripping out. Lena looked at all this in shock. What's happening? Golden light began to emerge from Kalis's neck. Looking at the blood he had coughed up, Kalis murmured, It's too late. Shutalin's wedding has already begun. The grand wedding ceremony began, and the crowd buzzed with discussions. Still no sign of Marquis Haneto? I heard he ran into trouble, but who knows if he didn't just run off with the saint. A wedding without a groom. This is truly embarrassing for the Shutalin family, a priest nearby muttered anxiously. What should we do? If we wait any longer, Miss Celia's divine power will explode. Upon hearing this, Bibi grabbed the priest's shoulders in shock. What did you say will happen to Mrs. Divine Power? Suddenly, screams erupted from the crowd. Everyone saw Celia's figure swaying on the altar. She spat out a mouthful of blood with a puff, then collapsed to her knees. Bibi tried to rush over but was stopped by the surrounding priests. You cannot approach. This is a Shutelin ritual. No one who hasn't undergone the engagement ceremony may touch her. The crowd's noise seemed to gradually fade away. In her daze, Celia reflected on her life. She thought she had escaped the death ending from the original story, but now faced this kind of death instead. Just because Celia Shutelin was a villain? But in this life, I never harmed anyone. More blood poured from her throat. I just wanted to live. With a loud crash, the chapel doors were violently pushed open. Through her haze, Celia saw someone walking quickly toward her, and then she was lifted into someone's arms. Celia Shutelin! Hold on, wouldn't it be too frustrating if you died now? The dying Celia shed tears, her face full of unwillingness, using her last bit of strength to grab the Grand Duke's hand. Your Highness, dying like this. I'm truly too unwilling. I really don't want to die. With that, she lost consciousness. The Grand Duke's expression darkened as he immediately ordered his subordinates. To prepare the engagement ceremony, the Shutelin wedding will continue. No matter what, I must save Celia Shutelin. In her dreams, Celia seemed to be chased by some terrible creature, running endlessly. Don't kill me! Don't kill me! I just want to live! Celia! Celia! Celia jolted awake. Warm sunlight filled the room. You're awake? The Grand Duke reached out to wipe the tears from the corner of Celia's eyes. What exactly did you dream about? You were crying so hard. Celia was a bit surprised. Upon hearing this, was I crying just now? The Grand Duke said gently. Otherwise, why would I wake you from your sleep? What exactly did you dream about? Celia hesitated for a moment, then smiled and spoke. Because I dreamed that I died. The Grand Duke wrung out a towel and placed it on Celia's forehead, teasing. You're afraid of death? You always do such bold and reckless things. I thought you weren't afraid of dying. Celia suddenly thought of someone. Looking at the smiling Grand Duke, she asked carefully, what about Kalis? The Grand Duke's expression immediately turned cold. Don't you remember what happened at the wedding? Celia's mind vaguely recalled the events of the wedding. In that case, I command the Lord of Belk, blessed by the constellation Shutelin, to swear to spend his life with her. Thinking of this, Celia sat up in surprise. Did we two get married? The Grand Duke nodded. That's right. As the Lord of Belk, how could I let something like losing Shutelin happen? Celia became even more puzzled. Your Highness, did you know I might die? The Grand Duke nodded again. Shutelin weddings are very complicated. We generally don't tell these things to the Shutelin themselves, but we do tell these matters to those engaged to Shutelin. Hearing this, Celia's heart seemed to skip a beat. Are you saying that Kalis knew about the possibility of my death? Just as Celia finished speaking, Kalis, ignoring the maid's attempts to stop him, stubbornly pushed open the door and burst into the room. What met his eyes was Celia's face, devoid of any emotion. Seeing Kalis burst in, Celia waved for the maids to leave. I have something to say to Marquis Hanito. After all the maids had left and closed the door, Kalis rushed forward and grabbed Celia. Celia, how could you do this to me? How could you marry another man? And you married the Grand Duke of Belk. As soon as he finished speaking, he received a solid slap across the face. I married another man because you didn't come. If it weren't for His Highness the Grand Duke, I would have died long ago. Seeing Kalis's shocked expression, Celia mocked. It seems you're quite curious about how I know this. And you clearly knew that delaying the wedding could kill me, yet you still left. Could it be that you actually hoped I would die all along? That's why you kept chatting endlessly with Lena. Kalis looked guilty. Celia, don't be like this. It was just an accident. I didn't intentionally miss the wedding. He collapsed dejectedly to his knees. I was worried about you too. Even though there was a blizzard outside, I actually wanted to rush back. I just suddenly collapsed at the doorway. You know, the woman I've always wanted to marry is you. My confessions to you have always been sincere. He grabbed Celia's hand. I only love you. The moment Kalis grasped her hand, Celia felt an unfamiliar power flowing within him. What's going on? That's right. How did Kalis survive? The price for breaking his oath should have been a divine power explosion like mine. Although Kalis has already held an engagement ceremony with Shutelin, the engagement ceremony binds the Shutelin, not the individual. So theoretically, he could marry any Shutelin. Thinking of this, Celia trembled as she spoke. Kalis, did you marry Lena? Celia yanked her hand away from Kalis. So you didn't die because you married Lena? Though it wasn't long, I truly regret ever having liked you. Kalis quickly defended himself. It was just a temporary marriage. Celia, just like how you temporarily married the Grand Duke to survive. He reached out both hands towards Celia. Let's get divorced, Celia. Both of us will divorce, and then we can start over, can't we? Celia spoke coldly. I no longer have any feelings for you. With that, she turned and walked away. Kalis quickly stepped forward, grabbing Celia's wrist, pleading desperately, Celia, let's talk this through properly. Looking at Kalis gripping her hand, Celia was very displeased. Kalis, I can sense another Shutelin's power from you, and it makes me very uncomfortable. Let go of my hand. As the two were arguing, a voice came from the distance. Didn't she tell you to let go? Marquis Haneto, have you gone deaf as well? Upon hearing this, Kalis reluctantly released his grip. The Grand Duke supported Celia. Your wound has opened again. Let's call a priest to examine you. Kalis immediately volunteered. I'll take Celia to see the priest, the Grand Duke said disdainfully. You? Kalis retorted defiantly. I still have things to say to Celia. The Grand Duke interrupted Kalis and said gently to Celia, Miss, you choose. Who do you want to go see the priest with? Kalis watched in dismay as Celia affectionately took the Grand Duke's arm, smiling brightly. Then I'll trouble you, your highness. The Grand Duke smiled back. How could it be trouble? We're husband and wife. The two left together, chatting and laughing. Kalis, his face red and swollen, stood there like an abandoned stray dog, staring blankly as they walked away. After the priest examined Celia's injuries, Celia knelt on one knee and bowed. Your highness, thank you for saving my life. The Grand Duke was startled and quickly pulled Celia up from the ground. What are you doing? Celia looked at the Grand Duke with clear eyes and said sincerely, Thank you for saving me. I'm truly, truly grateful to you. During our temporary marriage, I will do my utmost as a Shutalin for the Belk territory. The Grand Duke looked at Celia with satisfaction. To think Miss would say she'll work hard for my territory. I'll look forward to seeing that. Celia showed a happy smile. Yes, I'll do everything I can. Meanwhile, because he had thrown her gloves at the faces of those scoundrel knights, Abby was temporarily imprisoned. Celia went to visit the prison and learned that the Grand Duke would release Abby in a few days, which put her mind at ease. Just as she and Elia came out of the prison, they were stopped by Linon, who was consumed with resentment. You two look quite happy. Celia was startled by his expression. Are you all right? I'm not all right. Linon began complaining incessantly. Because His Highness suddenly got married, we need royal approval. His Highness also ordered that the original wedding banquet be changed to a year-end feast. After the banquet ends, the high priest will arrive. As if suddenly coming to his senses, Linon coughed lightly, however. Compared to Miss Celia's trips to inspect the glacier, these matters are indeed trivial. Originally, these affairs should be handled by the lady of the house and myself together. But since you two haven't received royal approval yet, and Miss is still unwell, it's better for me to handle them. Celia knew his later words were meant to ease her conscience. The people of Belk were all gentler than she had imagined. So she sincerely thanked Linon. Thank you, Linon. 2 days later, the day of the year-end banquet arrived. Begonia dressed Celia up beautifully. Looking at herself in the mirror, Celia worried whether she was dressed too extravagantly. Begonia told her it was perfectly fine because she would be the Grand Duke's consort from now on. Celia quickly explained, That's just because His Highness is kind-hearted and showed me mercy to save my life. But Begonia didn't think so. She had seen many cases of good intentions becoming destiny. Destiny. These two words made Celia fall into deep thought. Suddenly, there was a knock at the door, and a maid rushed in to report in a panic Miss Celia that, before she could finish, Lena popped out from behind her. Celia, please, talk with me. Begonia immediately wanted to rush over to stop her, but Celia held her back. Begonia, could you step out for a moment? I also want to hear what the saint has to say. After everyone else had left, they had barely sat down on the sofa when Lena said somewhat anxiously, Don't blame Kalis. It's just because I kept pestering him, saying I wanted to see the glacier. I never thought we'd encounter a blizzard. Celia sternly interrupted. Lena, didn't you know that Kalis is my fiancé? Lena was somewhat embarrassed, I knew, but Kalis is truly a precious friend to me. I just wanted to leave some beautiful memories at the end. Hearing this, Celia actually wanted to laugh. Final memories? Then since the final memories have been made, you won't see Kalis anymore, will you? Lena was taken aback. She hadn't expected Celia to say this. Large tears immediately began streaming down her face, looking pitiful. Celia, I really want to be friends with you. Celia rubbed her forehead helplessly. Lena, do you really think I can be all smiles and giggles with my ex-fiancé's current wife? But Lena blurted out, Why not? Celia thought she had misheard. What did you say? Lena looked at her with red eyes. Kalis and I aren't really married anyway, and you know that, don't you? The maid outside reminded Celia with difficulty. Miss Celia, it's almost time. But Lena continued talking to herself. I always thought we could definitely become good friends. After all, your birth mother was just a commoner-born actress. At this moment, with the banquet about to begin, the Grand Duke was preparing to go to the room to escort Celia, but was stopped by Kalis on the way. Your Highness Grand Duke of Belk, when do you plan to divorce Celia? I'm deeply grateful that you saved my fiancé's life, and I will repay you in the name of Haneto. The Grand Duke frowned impatiently. How ridiculous! What right do you have to repay debts on behalf of my wife? What relationship do you have with my wife? Kalis was stunned for a moment, then clenched his fists. I plan to divorce the saint. Moreover, the one who was formally recognized by Celia's father as her marriage partner was me. Your Highness, have you contacted Celia's family? Hearing these words, the Grand Duke became even more disgusted with Kalis. When he hastily married to save Celia, he had no time to consider these matters. And the culprit who caused this mess was still speaking to him so righteously. The Grand Duke was too lazy to argue with him and turned to leave. You, who nearly killed your own fiancé, are quite good with words. Suddenly, a scream came from the reception room. Miss Celia! The Grand Duke stopped in his tracks, and both he and Kalis looked toward the reception room. Just a few minutes earlier, Lena had casually said those malicious words to Celia. Celia, wasn't your birth mother just a commoner-born actress? People had mocked her with this since childhood. It was her trigger point. Whenever she encountered people speaking ill of her birth mother, Celia couldn't control her anger. The surrounding maids had already begun whispering, but Lena continued speaking without care. Celia, I really like your background. So what if your mother was a commoner? Since I'm also of commoner origin, we could be said to be the same. Watching Celia approach her with a dark expression, Lena blinked her innocent big eyes. Oh my, Celia, what's wrong with you? Celia's hand was already raised high. At this moment, she felt as if she were completely dominated by the emotions of the Celia from the book, overwhelmed by surging rage. Then came the sound of a loud slap. Lena flinched, but the slap had landed on Celia's own face. She had forcibly controlled her rampaging self, and her face began to burn with pain. Having regained her composure, Celia coldly asked Lena, "Where did you hear about this?" Lena hastily made up an excuse. "I heard it from my teacher." Celia approached Lena step by step. "Didn't your teacher tell you that I absolutely hate hearing people talk about this?" Casually mentioning sensitive family history between nobles is a grave insult. Celia leaned down, looking down at Lena with overwhelming pressure. Although Kalis keeps claiming it's a temporary marriage, you, Lena, Our Lady Haneto, you're a saint, you're a Shutalan like me. Can someone in such a position simply say whatever they want because they claim not to know, making everyone uncomfortable? Then Celia said sarcastically, "You're not a 3-year-old child. I hope you can recognize your position." She then walked straight out of the reception room. Bewildered, Celia leaned against the wall, standing dazedly in the corridor for a long while before remembering she had left Begonia in the room, so she planned to go back to find her. However, as soon as she turned around, she bumped into a solid chest. Just as she lost her balance and was about to fall, the person opposite grabbed her wrist. Only then did Celia see clearly that it was the Grand Duke. The Grand Duke was looking at her with concern. "Miss, did something happen just now?" Seeing the Grand Duke appear beside her, Celia was full of questions. "Your Highness, how are you here? Did you follow me?" Seeing Celia's bewildered expression, the Grand Duke sighed helplessly. "I've been following you since you left the room." Then he suddenly reached out to lift Celia's chin, carefully examining the marks on her face. Celia's face began to heat up, and after a while she heard the Grand Duke say leisurely, "This injury looks quite similar to your previous handiwork." Celia hesitated for a moment before admitting, "That's right, I did this to myself. Because I had some conflict with the saint." The Grand Duke paused, showing no intention of continuing the topic, and turned to signal Celia to follow him. "Let's go get some fresh air first, then go to the banquet hall. Your cheek needs some time to recover." She had expected the Grand Duke to press her for specific details, but he asked nothing. Was he being considerate of her feelings? Coming out of the reception room, Kalis happened to see the two of them walking through the hall. Watching them walk away with smiles and conversation, his heart was filled with mixed emotions. The two came outdoors and found a secluded spot to sit. Seeing the Grand Duke resting with his eyes closed, Celia couldn't help but steal glances at him. Who knew the Grand Duke would suddenly open his eyes, their gazes meeting directly, making her blush furiously. The Grand Duke was somewhat curious. "Why do you keep looking at me?" Celia made up an excuse. "I was just worried whether your Highness's white clothes would get dirty." She laughed awkwardly after saying this. The Grand Duke actually laughed along. "Miss, you really are. Sometimes I really want to open up your head and see what's inside. You always have such strange thoughts. Besides, it's your dress that can't have any damage." Feeling the Duke's appraising gaze, Celia's mind became confused. "What do you think of this dress? The previous one wasn't suitable for a Thanksgiving banquet, so I changed into this one." Looking at Celia, the Duke's ears began to burn. He averted his gaze and changed the subject. "Let's go back. The banquet should be starting." Just as the two stood up, Celia suddenly asked, "Your Highness, did Marquis Haneto come to the villa?" The Grand Duke's heart jumped. Why is she suddenly asking about this? Celia quickly explained, "I smelled cologne. There's a particular cologne that Marquis Haneto uses every time he attends a banquet." Seeing the Grand Duke's expression become somewhat unnatural, Celia hastily added, "Because that scent is very distinctive, that's why I remembered it. Are you upset?" The Grand Duke didn't respond, just urged once more, "We'll be late for the banquet, let's go quickly." Celia hurried to catch up with the Grand Duke's steps, walking toward the banquet hall. She even remembers the cologne scent. It seems she really used to like that guy a lot. At the banquet, people around Lena were all whispering, "After what happened, she still dares to attend the banquet. She's really shameless and has no shame." Lena felt uncomfortable all over and wanted to leave quickly. But Kalis sternly questioned her. "What exactly happened between you and Celia just now?" Lena answered impatiently, "Didn't I tell you? I just wanted to apologize." But Celia suddenly started making a scene. Just as they were arguing, the banquet hall doors opened, and the herald announced loudly, "His Highness the Grand Duke and Shutalan enter." Looking at Celia standing beside the Grand Duke with a blissful expression, Kalis suddenly felt a pang in his heart. Everyone's attention was drawn to the pair. "My goodness, Miss Celia is so beautiful. Their formal wear colors match so well. Should we call her Grand Duchess now?" Truly worthy of being today's protagonists. Seeing the two being showered with attention like stars surrounding the moon, Lena also wanted to rush over and talk to them, but she was stopped after just a few steps. "Saint, didn't the Marquis specifically instruct you before leaving not to trouble Miss Celia?" As melodious music began to play, the Grand Duke and Celia danced gracefully in the center of the banquet hall. Lena complained indignantly, "Why are only the Grand Duke and Celia allowed to dance first?" The attendant told her, "In royal law, His Highness the Grand Duke holds an extremely high position. Every generation of Belk Grand Duke has the same rank as the royal family." Lena thought her status with Kalis was also high. "Why can't we go?" The attendant looked troubled. "Your status is naturally very noble as well, but in the Empire, there's a clear distinction between nobility and royalty." Lena stared mesmerized at Celia, who had become the center of attention and was being held in the Grand Duke's arms. Murmuring quietly, "Ah, I see. That side is indeed better." After dancing at the banquet, Celia came to the balcony for fresh air. She had instructed the servants at the door not to let others come and disturb her. Looking at the full moon in the sky, Celia reflected on the events of this period. She had once thought she would become Lady Hanito. If she had successfully married Kalis, could she have avoided the death ending as hoped and lived happily ever after? Poor Kalis, whom she had once trusted, couldn't escape the original plot either. So would everything she now possessed also return to Lena's side as written in the original story? At this moment, a familiar voice called her name from behind. Celia turned around and, sure enough, saw Lena's face. She was walking towards Celia step by step, muttering, "Let's continue the conversation we didn't finish earlier." Celia didn't know why she was here. The Grand Duchess's balcony was a place where even dukes couldn't enter freely. Lena looked very eager to explain something. She said, "I've already mentioned divorce to Kalis." Hearing this, Celia remained unmoved, and then Lena immediately put on a pitiful expression. "Celia, they say both marriage and divorce are complicated matters for Shutelin. Although I can't divorce immediately," Lena grabbed Celia's hand, "but I will definitely return what I took from you." Hearing these words from Lena, Celia just wanted to laugh. "Lena, you seem to have misunderstood." She yanked her hand back, not wanting to waste any more time with Lena. "Whether you divorce Kalis or say farewell to him, I don't care at all anymore. What exactly do you still want to get from me?" Lena seemed to have been caught in her true thoughts and walked away somewhat angrily. "I don't want to get anything." A familiar cologne scent wafted over. Following the source of the smell, Celia caught sight of Kalis hiding by the doorway. At this moment, Lena seemed suddenly energized, as if she'd been injected with adrenaline. She spoke in a much louder voice than before. "I just discovered that I'm not the protagonist, but exist like a foreign object caught between you two." Celia was extremely surprised. From Lena's angle, she should be able to clearly see Kalis at the doorway. Why was she saying these things now? Up until now, she had never wanted any conflict with Lena, but Lena kept pushing her step by step. Celia was instantly furious. She stared straight at Lena. "So you deliberately said that just to let Kalis hear it? Are you hoping that after he hears it, he won't misunderstand your true feelings? Or are you trying to make him think I'm a bad person?" Looking at the panicked Lena, Celia touched her still swollen cheek and asked the question that had been troubling her. "I've never bullied you, so why are you doing all this?" Seeing that Lena had no intention of answering her, Celia didn't want to say more and turned to leave. Lena hurriedly tried to grab her, when suddenly the moon emitted a blinding flash of light, followed by Lena's scream. Celia looked back in shock to find that Lena had disappeared from the balcony. Kalis was also dazzled by the bright light, and when he looked again, he found that Lena had vanished. He almost immediately concluded that Celia had done something to Lena, and angrily shouted at her, "Celia, you actually pushed Lena down!" Celia looked at the man who said these words in disbelief, then laughed bitterly. "Kalis, you really know how to break my heart from beginning to end." Seeing Celia's sad expression, Kalis came to his senses and realized he had misspoken. Just as he was about to explain something, he inadvertently discovered Lena floating in midair, surrounded by golden light. The floating Lena was in a panic, calling Kalis's name, and threw herself into his arms, shouting somewhat frantically, I haven't begged you to save me." Kalis couldn't understand what was happening and could only try to comfort Lena's emotions. Celia watched all this indifferently, remembering that in the original story, Lena would travel back and forth between the original and present worlds through the moon several times, and this was probably the first time. But what did this have to do with her? She turned and left. Seeing Celia leave, Kalis wanted to chase after her but was entangled by Lena and couldn't break free, so he could only keep apologizing to her. Faced with Kalis, who was full of apologies but still didn't forget to hold the woman in his arms tightly, Celia only felt disgusted. She couldn't help but quicken her pace. Walking down the steps, Celia felt as if her heart had been stabbed with a knife. After all, she had once truly loved Kalis, but that man who had just recently said he only loved her immediately made her a suspect just because Lena had disappeared. When Celia's mood hit rock bottom, someone stopped in front of her and called her name. Celia looked up to find it was the Grand Duke. Celia smiled helplessly. "Why do you always see me in such a sorry state?" The Grand Duke also crouched down and joked, Yes, I know. After all, the Saint and the Marquis have naturally loud voices. After saying this, he reached out to caress Celia's cheek. You look like you're about to cry. Celia, who was already feeling wronged, suddenly couldn't control herself when shown such care. She lowered her head, her voice trembling. Yes, I feel like crying. The Grand Duke said nothing and silently accompanied the sobbing Celia for a long time. The next day, Lena was taken away by the High Priest. Lennon informed Celia of this news early in the morning. Just as they were chatting, enthusiastically, someone rushed into the room and interrupted their conversation. Callus looked somewhat anxious. Celia, please, can you give me a little more time? Lennon complained dissatisfiedly. Marquise Haneto, excuse me, are you treating me like I'm invisible? Callus ignored Lenon's sarcasm. I have something important to discuss, so why don't you just excuse yourself? He walked to Celia's side and knelt down with a thud. Celia, I'm sorry. I know this apology can't make up for the hurt I've caused you, but can you give me one more chance? Celia looked at him with eyes that held no emotion. Even if we start over, what would be different? Callus Haneto, are you confident you won't pay attention to Lena anymore? Callus hesitated for a moment and was about to say yes when he was interrupted. No, if Lena comes looking for you, you'll still run to her side. Yesterday you said I pushed Lena down, when you clearly didn't see anything, yet you immediately suspected me. I can understand that. After all, I have a bad reputation, and you almost lost an arm because of me. But you've hurt me too deeply. I don't want to live so fearfully anymore. Don't want to worry every day about whether you'll go to Lena's side. Celia took out her and Calus's wedding ring and threw it on the ground in front of Calus. Calus, let's make a clean break here. Celia couldn't be bothered to deal with the unreasonable Callus anymore, and walked toward the door, not forgetting to call to the dumbstruck. Lenon, come on, Lenon, let's go outside and continue our chat. As the door creaked shut, Callus was filled with regret. He wept bitterly, murmuring, I'm sorry, Celia. Celia and Lennon came outside and Lennon asked with some concern, are you all right? Celia was puzzled by the question. Is there anything that would make me not all right? Lennon said very seriously. I just feel it's a bit impolite to occupy so much time of someone who was crying her heart out over a breakup just yesterday. Celia's face immediately turned bright red with embarrassment. I wasn't crying. Yesterday I just figured some things out. So what did you actually want to tell me today? Just as Lennon was about to speak, Celia saw Abby, who had just been released from prison. She immediately ran over excitedly and showered Abby with care and concern, leaving Lennon aside. Seeing that their conversation was endless, Lennon couldn't stand it anymore. Please stop interrupting my business talk. Only then did Celia remember that Lennon was still waiting nearby, and somewhat awkwardly urged her to continue. There's a famous place privately located in the Belk mansion called the Laurel Garden. Miss Celia, you will go there with us tomorrow. The book mentioned that the Laurel Garden could only be entered by direct relatives of the Belk family. In the original story, it was a place that wasn't mentioned much, and it was even said that the place had disappeared. After informing Celia of this matter, Lennon breathed a sigh of relief. It would definitely be chaotic if you found out on the day of departure. Anyway, please prepare well. After Celia indicated her understanding, the next day quickly arrived. Despite the blizzard, the convoy departed as planned. However, at this moment, Celia was so embarrassed her toes were curling. When she woke up, she found herself wrapped in a blanket in the Grand Duke's arms. How did I end up on the carriage wrapped in a blanket? Celia was somewhat devastated. Nobody told me I was supposed to go to the Laurel Garden like this. The Grand Duke, seeing that she was awake, politely suggested she sleep a bit more as usual, since they still had a long way to go. But Celia couldn't possibly sleep in this position. The Grand Duke personally went to pick up Celia for departure, and when he reached her room, he found she was still sleeping. Seeing her sleeping so peacefully, he couldn't bear to wake her up, so he packed her up along with the blanket. In her entire life, Celia had never been held by a man while sleeping like this. She nervously wanted the Grand Duke to put her down. Actually, I can sit across from you. The Grand Duke looked at her puzzledly. Put you down, but you don't have shoes. There wasn't time to get your shoes then. They should be in the luggage cart. So just continue sleeping like this until we arrive. How could Celia possibly sleep in this position? Seeing her lack of sleepiness, the Grand Duke suddenly understood. Is it still too cold in the carriage? He then gently grasped her feet with his hands. Celia immediately became somewhat indignant. Why are you touching someone else's feet so casually? But the Grand Duke replied, matter-of-factly, we're not just anyone to each other. Looking at the Grand Duke, Celia seemed to understand something and became hesitant. Could it be, Your Highness, are we going to the garden to spend our wedding night? The Grand Duke was stunned, and when he realized what she was saying, he couldn't suppress the corners of his mouth, and turned to look out the window. That's right, we're going to spend our wedding night. Seeing the Grand Duke's expression, Celia immediately knew that he had just been joking with her. Then she heard the Grand Duke continue. I saw that your feet were cold, so having me warm your feet in the carriage should be the best choice. Celia quietly refused. No need, Your Highness. I beg you. Your Grand Duchess politely declines. After saying this, she felt it was inappropriate and changed her words. No, I decline in the name of Shutullin. Hearing Celia refer to herself as the Grand Duchess, the Grand Duke seemed to be in a very good mood. He held the person in his arms even tighter. "Why change your words? You are the Grand Duchess." But since the Grand Duchess says she's unwilling, the Grand Duke's hands released Celia's feet. Then the Grand Duke naturally can't do anything. Just as the atmosphere in the carriage was becoming increasingly intimate, suddenly a loud crash came. Something had fallen onto the carriage. The knights outside shouted, "It's a demon beast! A demon beast has appeared!" The Grand Duke placed Celia on the carriage seat and comforted her. "Stay obediently in the carriage. I'll have Lenon come keep you company shortly." Seeing that the Grand Duke was also going out to deal with the demon beast, Celia grabbed her cloak. Noticing the movement behind him, the Grand Duke turned back in surprise and saw Celia's worried face. She said softly, "Don't get hurt." Hearing this, the Grand Duke smiled slightly, squeezed her hand reassuringly, and responded, "All right." After the Grand Duke left, Celia looked out the window. Outside, the blizzard was still raging, and the knights and demon beasts were already locked in battle. "Why are there demon beasts appearing?" she wondered blankly. "Could it be because I haven't been going to the glacier these past few days?" The carriage door opened, and Lenon climbed in. He sat across from Celia, shivering, and sighed. "It's so warm in here, it's like heaven." Earlier, he had tactfully avoided riding in the same carriage as Celia and the others, instead squeezing in with the luggage. After settling down, he seriously warned Celia, "We're about to reach the Laurel Garden. Once we go inside, you absolutely must not use honorifics with anyone except the Grand Duke, or we'll die horribly, because the demon in that mansion—" His words were cut short. A terrible face appeared reflected in the window. The suddenly appearing demon beast frightened both of them. Coming to her senses, Celia wanted to tell Lenon to leave the carriage, but the demon beast didn't give them a chance and immediately overturned the carriage. The Grand Duke, who was fighting the demon beasts, heard a knight shout from behind, "The carriage is under attack!" He paused for a moment, then immediately turned and rushed toward the carriage. "Celia!" Celia in the carriage was knocked dizzy. She looked at Lenon beside her. "Are you okay?" Lenon answered, "I'm fine." But when he raised his head, Celia saw that a wound on his face was emanating terrible demonic energy. She immediately channeled Shutalon's purifying power and without hesitation embraced Lenon's head. "Don't move around. If you're poisoned by demonic energy, it'll be terrible." Celia's body naturally had weak purification abilities, but she should be able to barely purify this level of demonic energy. At this moment, a knight shouted at her, "Miss Celia, get away quickly!" As soon as he finished speaking, there was a loud bang, and a large hole was torn in one side of the carriage. A hideous demon beast appeared before them, reaching out its claws toward her. Celia thought this was bad, feeling the oppressive sense of death approaching. Just as the claws were about to touch her, a sword flashed. The demon beast was split in half from the middle. It was the Grand Duke. Seeing that Celia was still alive, she sighed in relief. "Celia, are you injured?" Celia stood up and answered, "No." She was still instinctively holding Lenon in her arms. Seeing clearly who was in her arms, the Grand Duke's face immediately darkened. "What, is that boy dead? Why is he lying there like that? Get up already!" Celia quickly explained. "I was just purifying the demonic energy from Lenon, and I've just finished." She cupped Lenon's face and checked it back and forth. "Great, it's all recovered." Lenon felt the murderous intent behind him, and felt his back go cold. This time he really seemed doomed. After dealing with the demon beasts, a knight came to report the situation. "Your Highness, the demon beasts in this area should all be cleared out, but the carriage probably can't be used anymore." Looking at the destroyed carriage, the Grand Duke told Celia that they would need to continue on horseback. Celia didn't mind, she said confidently. "My horseback riding skills are actually quite good." The Grand Duke looked somewhat puzzled. "What does this have to do with your riding skills?" Celia was also confused by the question, but she soon deeply understood the meaning of that statement. "Your Highness, am I luggage? Right now I feel like a chrysalis." The Grand Duke's arms holding her tightened. "Nonsense! I wouldn't just let any chrysalis onto my horse," he said in an almost threatening tone. "Your whole body is frozen stiff. If you don't want to freeze to death, just stay put." Although she was cared for by the Grand Duke in a frightening tone, she looked at his handsome profile and thought, being held in his arms like this does seem much warmer indeed. After walking for an unknown amount of time, they finally stopped. Standing before the tall iron gate, Celia carefully asked, "This is—" The Grand Duke confirmed her thoughts. "That's right, this is the Laurel Garden." Celia was carried directly into the house by the Grand Duke. She looked at the hall covered in mold spots before her. Is this really the Laurel Garden? When passing through the courtyard, there had been a feeling that made her very uncomfortable. Seeing Celia in a daze, the Duke thought she was feeling unwell. Celia casually replied, "I just feel this place is somewhat different from the main mansion." At this moment, an elderly woman walked down the stairs. She was quite surprised by the Grand Duke's arrival, His Highness Luce. Then she looked at the person in her arms. Could this be the Grand Duchess? Celia quietly corrected, "Just temporarily." The woman seemed to misunderstand, and she launched into a tirade at the Grand Duke. "What does temporarily mean? Your Highness, are you planning to use the young lady to test whether you want to get married? The bride wasn't kidnapped by you, was she?" She stepped forward and grasped Celia's hands, rubbing them with concern. "Oh my, look how you're frozen like an ice block. How exactly did you all get here?" The warmth transmitted through her hands warmed Celia's heart. Linan quietly reminded the Grand Duke. The knights are still at the perimeter. The Grand Duke handed Celia to the woman. Martha, I'm entrusting Celia to you. I'll go check outside. Celia immediately blushed. I can walk by myself. Martha naturally extended her arms. The ground is dirty. Immediately after, Celia was easily lifted up by Martha. Never having imagined she would be princess carried by an older woman, Celia felt somewhat awkward. Madam, you're really quite strong, Martha replied with a chuckle. Thank you for the compliment. Just call me Martha. No need to be so formal with me. Then Martha suddenly remembered something. You're not being this polite with Linan too, are you? Celia had completely forgotten Linan's warning. Yes, is there a problem? Martha gave Linan a kind smile. Linan, if you don't want to die, you'd better prepare a reason good enough for me to accept. She ignored the dejected Linan and carried Celia toward the bathroom. I'll take you to bathe first. You're completely frozen. Arriving at the bathroom, soaking in the steaming hot bath, Celia looked around. This bathroom is very clean, but it's quite... Martha seemed to see through her thoughts. This is the bathroom we use. The other bathrooms aren't really usable right now. From Martha, Celia learned that besides her, there were also a gardener and a butler in this mansion. Celia had originally thought those black mold spots were due to long-term vacancy. In that case, why would the Grand Duke hide this mansion? At this time, Linan was setting the table together with the butler. He looked at the familiar surroundings. This mansion really hasn't changed at all. The butler was indifferent. Hasn't it been like this since that day? Facing the efficient butler, Linan asked the confusion in his heart. Don't you feel awkward living here? You're the butler of the Grand Duke Belk's territory, but you're not at the main mansion, and everyone has strong opinions about it. The butler smiled. I've been here for over 10 years. I'm used to it. Besides, the main mansion doesn't usually have many guests anyway. Speaking of which, Celia Shutalin, isn't she the cruel and arrogant Shutalin you cursed about 2 years ago? Before he finished speaking, Linan quickly moved close to the butler and lowered his voice. Never tell the young lady what I said before. We have a very good relationship now, and I want to maintain it. The butler didn't expect Linan to react so strongly, which actually piqued his curiosity. How much has she changed to make your attitude change so dramatically? Oh, who changed? Hearing the sudden female voice, Linan turned around trembling. Celia had finished bathing and changed into a gorgeous light-colored dress. Linan quickly flattered her and guided Celia to sit at the table. No, we were saying the mansion has changed a lot. After sitting down, the butler respectfully introduced himself to Celia. It's an honor to meet you, Miss Celia. I'm Belk's butler. I hope you can be casual and just call me Ben. While chatting with the butler, Celia's peripheral vision inadvertently glanced toward a corner of the ceiling. There was also a large patch of black mold spots there. Looking carefully, those patches were actually wriggling. Could this be condensed demonic energy? If she wasn't mistaken, she remembered that should be Demon Shadow. This was the name Lena gave to the cursed byproduct of demonic energy that she gave to Minjae later. Demon Shadow appeared in the latter half of the original story, and was a very important factor in the plot. Demon Shadow was very strange. Even the High Priest was helpless against it. With Lena's successful purification of it, it also had a huge impact on the royal family. But Demon Shadow shouldn't appear here. To solve it, do we have to ask Lena, who is the female protagonist, to come here? Noticing Celia's distraction, Lena tentatively asked, Has His Highness told you about these things? Today in the mansion. You've seen everything, everywhere there are. This place has been covered by those black fungi for 15 years. To solve this matter, we've tried every solution on this continent, but still see no improvement. Finally, we could only bring in wizards from the Nasaran Kingdom. Celia could hardly believe it. Wizards are people considered heretical by the Grand Temple. I'm a Shutalin. Is it okay to tell me about this? You could have just not brought me here. Linan sighed. His Highness probably wanted Martha to meet you. After all, His Highness was raised by Martha since childhood. Celia immediately felt somewhat shy. Isn't this just like meeting the in-laws? She complained. Then he could have brought me here after the wizard ritual was finished. Linan's expression became increasingly grave actually, because this is the last chance she'll have to see you. Miss Celia. Standing in the bitter wind and snow, Ariel walked over. Your Highness, there are no remaining demon beasts nearby. The wizards. The Grand Duke consoled her. Because of the snow, they'll probably arrive tomorrow. Don't worry, you should lead the knights back to the mansion first. Then she looked toward the laurel garden. This time I will definitely save her. Near dusk, Martha arranged a place for Celia to rest. She chatted casually. You'll sleep here tonight. The bedroom prepared for you isn't ready yet. His Highness didn't give advance notice. As she spoke, she took Celia's hand. When you go to the garden, you absolutely cannot be so polite with everyone. Celia quietly replied, I remember. Martha looked both pleased and somewhat sad. So lovable. It's a pity there might only be a few days left, but to have the opportunity to serve a Grand Duchess like you, I'm really happy. Celia's heart suddenly trembled. Only a few days. She recalled her conversation with Linan. Those fungi are corroding the mansion. This place can't hold on much longer. At the time, Celia didn't think much of it. Then why not have the people here take refuge in the main mansion? Linan didn't answer her, only said faintly, You'll know soon enough. Miss Celia, This was a plot not mentioned in the original story, and Celia couldn't guess what would happen next. After carefully tidying up the room, Martha told Celia that the Grand Duke might return late and she could rest first. Speaking of the Grand Duke, Celia casually asked, "By the way, where does His Highness sleep?" Martha Swish closed the curtains. "Of course he sleeps here. After all, this is His Highness's bedroom." "What?" Not noticing Celia, who was petrified with shock, Martha looked bashful and continued talking to herself. "Oh my, I never told you that?" Late at night, the Grand Duke returned to the mansion, exhausted. From a distance, he saw Martha waiting with a candle. "You're back, Your Highness?" The Grand Duke asked. "Where's Celia?" Martha replied with a smile. "She seems to be asleep. She was probably exhausted today." The butler suddenly interjected. "Your Highness, is she really that Celia Shutalin? She seems completely different from what I heard from Linen's mouth a few years ago." Getting an affirmative reply from the Grand Duke, the butler was even more surprised. "She's actually changed this much. Did she experience something significant?" The Grand Duke's steps paused, his expression gloomy. "Nothing significant. Just fell in love with some annoying guy and ended up like that. Alright, I'm going to rest too." After changing clothes, the Grand Duke returned to his bedroom. He sensed someone else's presence, then discovered Celia sleeping on the sofa and was immediately dumbfounded. "How come Martha didn't tell me she was sleeping in my bedroom? And why is she sleeping on the sofa?" The Grand Duke complained quietly. This person is really worrying, while carefully carrying her to the bed. After settling Celia, the Grand Duke was about to sit down when he suddenly thought, "On such a cold day, she won't freeze to death, will she?" He hurriedly lit the fireplace. Sitting on the sofa again, he noticed that Celia had nothing covering her, and rushed to cover her with a blanket, even finding an excuse for his series of actions. "The room is a bit cold. I can't let the noble Shutelin freeze to death in her sleep. That's all." Seeming to be disturbed by the blanket-pulling motion, Celia readjusted her sleeping position. From this angle, her sleeping face was completely visible to the Grand Duke. The Grand Duke's mind instantly flashed with her previous words and her shy expression at the time. "Are we going to spend our wedding night?" The Grand Duke felt his heart pounding, as if a deer was running wild. Coming to his senses, he hurriedly shook off this thought. "What am I thinking?" As he was about to stand up, a hand hooked around his waist. The Grand Duke hadn't expected that she could still charm him while sleeping, and suddenly even his ear tips turned red. His heart burning with